Hi Cancer, welcome to your November 2018 Tarology 33 reading. As usual, we have a Celtic cross spread in front of us, and you did get an extra card in the position of the foundation. And then, as always, we have an oracle card that we'll read at the end to help tie everything together. At first glance, this definitely looks like it's going to be a relationship vibe primarily with this reading, but we'll see as we go along. So let's start going through the cards one by one. In the main situation position, we have the Eight of Cups. So this card usually represents moving on from something that you no longer find fulfilling. It could be any area of your life. It could be relationships. It could be a job. It could be a friend group. And it could be something that you've been involved in for a long time. These 8 cups, they could represent 8 years. For some of you, 8 months. It doesn't have to be necessarily that long. But really, even if the number 8 in particular doesn't resonate with you, this still gives a vibe of something that you've been building for a long time and then realize that, you know what, maybe this just isn't the right path for me. And this actually, as far as the astrological energy at play with this card, this represents the first 10 degrees of Pisces, but I actually also see it as the energy of the moon blending with Neptune. So that could be what's going on there. Maybe if some of you guys have an aspect of your Cancer moons, for example, maybe Neptune is aspecting your moon right now, and it's bringing this about. Or it could just be the energies at play in general. The new moon coming up in Scorpio, I think, is going to be pretty close to trining with Neptune in Pisces, so maybe that's when you come to this realization. That's certainly a possibility. But yeah, definitely just getting the vibe that you're walking away from something, whether it's a relationship you felt didn't serve you anymore, like I said, an environment, maybe even just habits, maybe habits that you built up over the years, or beliefs, and you're realizing, maybe they're not getting you where you want to go, and you're deciding to walk away from them and see if there's something else out there for you. In the challenger obstacle position, we have the High Priestess. Oh, can't get it to focus for some reason. But for some of you, this could just be saying that, the challenge is for you to trust your intuition. So maybe if you're not quite ready to make that move yet, something's been telling you that maybe you should move on, but you're still on the fence about it a little bit. This is saying, in that case, trust your intuition. Or even if you're sure you definitely do want to leave, but you're not sure where to go just yet, it's saying trust your intuition in that regard. Say, okay, well, if this definitely isn't right for you, whether it be a job, relationship, like I said, we've already covered that. Just trust your intuition to guide you as far as where you want to go next. And you should end up in good position in that case. And the good thing is, I always say it looks like she has her foot on the moon, which to me represents having a firm control over your emotions. So that could be it too, just saying, you don't want to necessarily make a rash decision, but just feel comfortable and confident in what you're doing and then make your move from there. In the foundation position, like I said, we had the 2 cards there, and they are the Page of Cups and the Ace of Swords. So the Ace of Swords sometimes does represent a truth being communicated to you. Sometimes it's not directly communicated to you by another person. That may be more of the Page of Swords energy, but sometimes it's just something you process in your mind. Or maybe you see something and you draw your own conclusion from what you see. But this definitely does represent something coming to light one way or the other. And then when you combine that with the Page of Cups, I see this a few different ways. When I look at the Page of Cups, I see a few things. I think of, You know, some people refer to the Page of Cups as, oh, you're going to receive a romantic offer, let's say. But what I would say is it doesn't seem like it's a very well thought out offer, right? Or maybe not very genuine, right? Not to say that they're blatantly being disingenuous, but maybe they're unsure themselves, right? Because I mean, look, he's presenting the cup, but there's a fish in it, you know. Like, don't you want to take the fish out of that before you offer me that cup? You know, just so it seems like it's very, if not hasty, just not very well planned. And another thing that's coming to my mind right now, especially with that Eight of Cups energy, if this is you and your energy being represented here, the term that popped into my head looking at this is a fish out of water. Because if you look at the page, you know, he's on land with the water behind him, and then the fish clearly is out of water, right? So a fish out of water is a term that popped into my head, so maybe that'll resonate with some of you. And maybe that's what this Ace of Swords is saying, you know, and it's pointing right at the High Priestess as well. So maybe something just popped in your head, you know, something clicked for you where you're like, you know what, I've been on this path, in this relationship, at this job for however long. It just doesn't suit me anymore. I don't feel, you know, where I should be in life on this path, and you know, you don't see any way to get there by continuing on that path. So you might be taking the initiative to move forward in a different direction. But yeah, for some of you, another thing that I'm seeing, like I said, I did pick up on relationship vibes in this reading with the overall spread when I saw it. So this could also be maybe, you know, if we look at the past position here, we have the King of Cups. So let's say that this is someone that you have a crush on, right? Or it could obviously be you as well. But let's say this is someone else, and maybe there's someone you put on a pedestal. It doesn't even have to be, you know, romantically either. Maybe it's a boss that you put on a pedestal, or a job, right? A career path that you put on a pedestal, and a friend, whomever it may be, you know, something or someone that you put on a pedestal. You view them as the king, right? And now something comes to light with that Ace of Swords down here in the foundation, and now you see, you know what, I viewed this person as the King of Cups, but they're really more like the Page of Cups. You know, so someone's importance or your view of them could be diminishing in your life. That's a vibe that I'm getting, because if we connect that, that would certainly lead to an Eight of Cups situation where you realize, you know, I've been seeing this person like this all along. Now I realize they're really like the Page of Cups, not the King, and that doesn't suit me. I'm going to move on. And what even brings that thought to my mind even more is in the present position, we have the Knight of Wands. So to me, this represents movement. This is typically a card that represents Sagittarius for me. So, I mean, if you think about the Sagittarius energy, it's always on the move, traveling, you know, just bunch of interest. For some reason, I can't get the card to focus. Sorry about that. There we go. So that could be what this is referring to. Just saying that, you know, you found out whatever you found out. Something came to light. There's going to be a pretty intense full moon coming up. I'm recording this on the 20th of October, and there's a full moon coming up in, I think on Wednesday of this upcoming week. And that's going to be a pretty heavy one. It's going to be in Taurus, and it's going to be opposing Venus, that's retrograde in Scorpio, which is your 5th house. Obviously the sun as well, because that's the full moon, when the moon is across from the sun. And it's going to be square the north and south nodes, which are in Leo and Aquarius. They're about to move. Actually, the north node will be moving into your sign very soon. So that's going to bring about 18 months of good karma and growth for you, but a lot of growth. So maybe this is just clearing the way for that new path for you. But yeah, and then for some of you, obviously, this could be saying that there could have been, you know, let's put it in a more mundane sense as well. Could be that there was a water sign that made a love offer to you, or maybe even that you were in a relationship with. You had put them on a pedestal, since that's the past position, the king, and then we have the page in the foundation position. So either you came to realization about them on your own, or maybe you found out something about them and you're seeing them more clearly now and saying, you know what, this isn't really the right fit for me. Thus that Eight of Cups energy walking away. And then maybe it's a fire sign that brings that energy out of you. You meet a new fire sign, let's say, and you find that, this is a better connection for me personally, and you move in that direction. For some of you, like I said, maybe you thought that this was where your place was, right? Like if it's a job, you felt, okay, I'm at this high status, I'm feeling good, but then something comes to light where you realize, maybe your position isn't as firm and as settled as you thought it was. I see that as less likely, though. To me, this is really registering to me as you seeing someone else in a different light now and moving away from them. And like I said, this could have been friends, a job, a romantic partner, any of those combinations of things. It'll resonate differently for some of you, but I definitely get the vibe you're walking away from them after something coming to light. So we have the Five of Cups at the bottom of the deck as well. And to me, that represents something that's long-standing as well, but just not, struggling to move on from it. So I have a feeling this is something that's been going on for a while. And now you have Saturn back in your opposite sign, your 7th house. So that could definitely be tied to relationships. Venus is retrograde in your 5th house, which is another house that's related to relationships. So you could definitely be distancing yourself from someone, with these energies at play, bringing something to light about them not being necessarily the right fit for you. In the near future position, we have the moon. So this could be playing out a few different ways. Obviously, you guys as Cancer, you're ruled by the moon. So this could just be talking about you taking your power back. Again, like I said, if you were the one feeling diminished, at one point you felt like the King of Cups, but maybe you were in a bad relationship, a bad job that made you feel diminished, made you feel more like the Page of Cups. You're like, you know what? I deserve better than that. You walk away. This could be talking about you taking your power back in that regard, feeling back in control, feeling back in tune with your emotions. That's a few ways that could play out. For some of you, and I would say less of you, this could be some deceptive energy at play as well. There's a couple other cards that point to that, which is why I say that. And if that's the case, I don't think it's you deceiving yourself. So I'm actually getting the vibe you're seeing things pretty clearly. But something in your environment is deceptive right now. Whether it be a person, a group of people, a dynamic at play, that's the vibe that I'm getting, because, again, we have you with the Eight of Cups walking away. The moon here, like I said, which, if anyone's comfortable with the moon energy, it's you guys. You're ruled by the moon. And I see you here as the Eight of Wands. The environment is the Seven of Cups. So that's why I'm saying it looks like there could be some deception in your environment. And then in the outcome position, we see the Seven of Swords. Usually I don't jump ahead like that, but to me this all ties together very well. I'm trying to go through the cards one by one, but I see a pretty clear picture for the most part of what's going on with that. So that's just the vibe that I'm getting. And what I always say to people with the moon card, and I never remember which signs have had it, which haven't, so if you're hearing this message from me again, I apologize. But for those of you who haven't heard this description from me before, I don't see the moon as deception necessarily. The example I always give is, let's say you're on vacation, you're in a hotel room, right? You're walking around the room, you put everything where you want it to be, you go to sleep for the night. And then you wake up in the middle of the night, you have to go to the bathroom, and you don't want to wake up whoever else is in the room with you, so rather than turn on the light, you decide to walk in the dark, right? So what's the first thing you do? You walk around very tentatively, right? Slowly, make sure you don't stub your toe on anything. Clearly no one moved the furniture around while you were sleeping, but it's an unfamiliar environment to you. So you're like, you know what, let me make sure that I'm moving around carefully. I can't see. While the lights are on, you were able to move around perfectly fine, no problem. Didn't even give it a second thought, right? But in the dark, you know, you have to feel things out a little bit. And again, for you guys, Cancers, that should be second nature to you anyway. So combine that with this, the High Priestess, in your challenge. It's saying trust your intuition. That couldn't speak any louder to me in that regard. And then, like I said, looking at this in the environment, tied with that, if you feel someone's being deceptive towards you, I'd say you could definitely trust that this month. You know, I wouldn't always say that. You know, sometimes I'd say, you know, feel it out a little bit more and give it some time. But just the way these cards are laying out shows me that you're actually seeing things pretty clearly. It's someone in your environment or something in your environment that's introducing any kind of deception or confusion. So keep that in mind. In the present position, we have the Eight of Wands. So this could just be you communicating a lot. This could just be you taking on a lot at once. You know, maybe, let's say you did walk away from a job, right? This could be you sending out your resume to a bunch of new jobs. If it's a relationship, it could be you communicating with friends you hadn't spoken to in a while, or putting yourself out there in dating apps. Who knows, you know? But I'm definitely seeing, and going back to that fish out of water thing, like I said again, that could be another way that this could be playing out too, is saying you could be overwhelmed right now. You could have too much going on. And that could actually be you, you know, feeling like maybe in the past you felt like, you know, I can take all these things on, right? Maybe in the past you were feeling more like this. Oh yeah, I'm sure I could do this job. I could have a second job. I could go to school part-time. Maybe you were just taking on too much, and you know, now it's burning you out. So maybe you're saying, you know what, let me leave behind what doesn't serve me and stick with what does. So you could just be cutting down what you're doing. Or at least the environment seems to be forcing that on you in some regard. But yeah, that's one way that could play out. But for a lot of you, I just feel like this is some kind of communication and you taking action. You know, Libra is your fourth house. And technically Libra squares Cancer. So the sun, if you're a Cancer sun, rising sign or moon, at some point the sun squared that whatever Cancer placement you have while it was moving through Libra. And, you know, so normally that's a tension energy, but at the same time, it's unique for you guys as far as you are the natural rulers of the fourth house. So it could push you to action that might not feel very comfortable, but it's helpful. You know, so maybe if you guys look back to past times when we've been in the time of Libra, if you notice that there's been some nudge towards change, but it's been positive for you, that's probably what's at play here. And then we're also going to have the sun moving into Scorpio. So when November rolls around, the sun will be in Scorpio, which is your fifth house. And that's a fire house, technically. So that could be what gets you re-energized as well. So there's a couple ways that could play out. But I would say just be careful you don't burn yourself out, because I did get a bit of that vibe as well with the Knight of Wands and the Eight of Wands. That makes me feel like this is probably you. And, you know, while you're a cardinal energy, so technically you're not against movement like that. You know, you just have to be careful. You could burn yourself out. That could be what's at play too, especially if people are introducing deception into the environment. Now we have in the position in the environment, we have the Seven of Cups. This could not, even if it's not necessarily deception, this could just mean that there's too many options at play. So that's why I'm saying, you know, with the Eight of Wands, the Knight of Wands, you could just be getting burned out trying to do too many things at once. You know, that's certainly a possibility. And then that's what eventually brings the Eight of Cups energy along, which is to say, you know what? Walk away from what isn't serving you and focus on what does. If you do start to feel burned out at some point, you know, leave some things behind and take what's important to you. That could be what this message is trying to convey. But for those of you where if that deception theme that we covered a little earlier does seem to resonate with you, the way I describe this card is if you look at this person, they're in the dark, right? So they're not seeing, you and I looking at this card right now, we could see that there's some strange things going on with these cups, right? But this person being in the dark, they might not be able to see that. So what might seem plain to other people, this person, whether it be you, because someone in your environment is trying to deceive you, or on the flip side, if it's, self-deception, that could be what's at play here. But like I said, you're gonna have to feel that part out for yourself. Thus, the moon and the high priestess. But if you're already getting that vibe that someone or something in your environment is deceptive, these 3 cards here lead me to believe that you could actually really trust that. So keep that in mind. In the hopes or fears position, we have the Hermit. This is actually the card for Virgo, Major Arcana card for Virgo. So some of you could be hoping to deal with a Virgo or fearing dealing with a Virgo. Apparently that Virgo doesn't want their card to focus. There we go. So that could be what that is, but also this just represents going inward, reflecting, maybe. So again, like I was saying, maybe going back to that fish out of water message I was getting with the Page of Cups card, could just be saying that you're feeling burned out and you want some alone time. You need some time to unwind. Maybe there's just so much going on for you right now. Knight of Wands, 8 of Wands, that you're hoping for some time to just reflect and catch your breath and really process what's going on. Maybe all these things are going on. Maybe that's what it's saying. You've walked away, decided this doesn't serve me anymore, I'm moving on. But you're just hoping for some time to process it. I think I can't remember the specifics of your reading last month. I just remember it was a little heavy. And the card, I think I titled your video Processing Past Pain. So that could be it too. Maybe you're still not quite fully through that phase yet. And you're hoping for a little more time, because if you look at him, it looks like he's looking down towards the moon. So it could just be saying, you want a little more time to process your emotions. But maybe there's just so much going on right now, you feel like you can't stop and take that breath, And finally, in the outcome position, we have the 7 of Swords. No one likes to see this card pop up in their reading. It does point to deception. On the positive side, this could just be saying that Mars is actually, all right, this is the card of Aquarius. It represents the last 10 degrees of Aquarius, 20 to 30. And Mars is actually going to be traveling through those degrees in the early part of November. So it could be pointing to that. And if that's the case, we could look at it and think about how Aquarius is your 8th house. So if there's deception at play, this deception could have been regarding maybe money you were owed. Like, let's say you did leave a job, and let's say you had X amount of vacation days left, and they're supposed to pay you for those days once you leave the job, because technically you earned them, but they're trying to tell you, oh no, you didn't have that many, we could only give you this much. That's what that would represent there. They're showing you, they're leaving you only 2 behind to see, but they carried away 5. Oh no, this is all you have. You didn't have all you thought you did, and if that's the case, definitely look back at your records and see. For some of you, if this is a relationship that you walked away from, and let's say if it was a marriage, for example, that's certainly possible with Saturn in your 7th right now. Maybe that's what's going on, and maybe whoever you're divorcing, they're trying to hide assets. So because they know, okay, they're going to split it 50-50, right, supposedly, but then they're hiding some of their stuff away, so when it's time for that to happen, they're still going to make away with a lot more than you would. That's a possibility. And, it's certainly a more negative thing, but the positive thing to take away from the 7 of Swords is that if it's someone who's been deceptive with you, the way I always say is, this isn't the best way to be carrying those swords, clearly, you know what I mean? So eventually, those people usually end up hurting themselves in the long run, and possibly even getting caught too, because let's say they cut themselves walking with those swords like that, and you'll be able to tell who took them eventually, right? So that's the good thing. I will say that if this is someone who's been deceptive with you, just the overall energies this month, it looks like that would come out some point this month, which, would make sense astrologically as well. You have, like I said, Venus going retrograde in your fifth. The sun's going to be moving to your fifth house, so that's going to be a helpful energy there. Saturn is in your seventh. I do have to point out for some of you, if you guys are the ones being deceptive, keep that in mind that Saturn in your seventh is not really going to let that fly. So just something to keep in mind there. But I'm thinking for 95% of you or more, it's not you that are being deceptive at all. It's actually you guys are really on top of things, but you're doubting it because there's some deception in your environment with that Seven of Cups there. That's what I'm feeling. So something to keep in mind. We'll read your Oracle card and we'll wrap up for the month. The Oracle card is Blessed. So, the reading was a little bumpy in spots. Didn't necessarily seem like the most blessed reading, but if we add this card to the mix, I would say the positive potential outcomes we were talking about seem more likely with that being your Oracle card, so that's good news. Let's see what the messages have to say. All right, it says, something wonderful that is unearned and unexpected, grace that is an unforeseen gift from Spirit. The Oracle's message. There are moments in life when out of the blue it seems that everything has been orchestrated by divine intervention. You feel blessed in ways that are difficult to express. It's as if the Red Sea parts in front of you and events come together to banish your troubles easily and naturally. You know deep down you did not deserve any of it, and yet here you are. This is one of those times. Let awe and gratitude for all your blessings guide you now. So one thing that stuck out to me with the way that was worded, I wouldn't say it vibes perfectly well with what we see in this main spread here. But one thing that came to mind again was, like I said, if you've just been on the wrong path, you might have felt like, oh, okay, this is the best that I can get, right? So maybe it's saying that now that you finally realized, wait, this isn't the right path for me, and you moved on, things start to naturally fall into place. So it might seem to you like, oh, I'm getting, these blessings that I didn't deserve, but really you did. It's just that something or someone had you feeling diminished, like, Page of Cups, when in the past you felt like the King of Cups and just weren't really on the right path or with the right person, and that kind of threw everything off. Speaking of relationships, we'll read the specific relationship message next. It says, you are moving toward a deepening of intimacy and a unique and sacred partnership. You know you are meant to make this connection. This union, blessed by the divine, will bring transformation and beauty to the world. This is also a sign that, even more important, you're being called to a deeper intimacy with yourself and spirit. With this new development, you will see evidence of grace in your life. So, I didn't necessarily see a big, huge relationship vibe as far as a new connection. But again, like I said, it could be if you were with a water sign that you weren't seeing clearly, something comes out, you realize I viewed them as the king, they're more like the page, and the Knight of Wands comes along. That could be what this is referring to. But I do like the other part where it says that, you're being called to a deeper intimacy with yourself and spirit. That could be what the Eight of Cups and the High Priestess is talking about, saying that you're trusting your intuition and moving away from what doesn't serve you and towards what does. And the prosperity message is last, so I'll read that. It says, unexpected windfalls and good fortune come your way now. You're in a phase where any difficulties or obstacles that have stymied your success seem to disappear on their own. Be ready to receive. The windows of opportunity will open wide. Accept the blessings given to you now and don't forget to share them. So the one thing I did say, like I said, this deceptive energy that I see coming from the environment with that high priestess and the moon, I was saying it looks like you will eventually see it clearly, and that's where that Eight of Cups comes into play, where you distance yourself from it. That could be what it's saying there, as far as, difficulties or obstacles that have stymied your success seem to disappear on their own. That could be what it is. Like I said, once you get reconnected with the right path, things fall into place for you in that regard. But yeah, I mean, overall, I would say usually the Oracle cards really vibe really well with the overall spread. And this one, I'd say it was a little, I could see some connections, but it wasn't like an overwhelming connection. So, but hopefully that did resonate for some of you. And I'll talk to you all next month. Actually, I should mention too, if you're interested in a personal reading, just go to the About section on my page for info on how you could book that with me. And if not, I'll see you guys in December. Bye.